Hey everybody, Shawnee Kelly Price here, and
Bastion.
So today we're going to talk about, read our hook.
Price is not always the leading factor.
Or the deciding factor,
Yes.
right? So we're going to talk about a deal that we just did last month, and it's got some really good insights here. Price is not the factor by about $25,000 in this instance, so stay tuned. Okay, so come closer.
Try to get like this, the chair.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so this is a case study. We're going to start doing more and more of these because we've got them piling up and with lessons learned and everything else. This is a really good one where people always think the biggest factor is going to be the price of a property, and that's not always the case. This one was what? It's not like it was $25,000 was the difference and it was a $3 million property, which, you know, the scale would be a lot smaller.
Yeah.
This was what, 800 and something thousand?
Yeah, our offer escalated up to $850,000, and they had another offer that escalated up to $875,000.
And we got it.
Our offer still won because
Yes.
terms are also important. Everybody thinks about price, but you know, when you get down to the details of it, the terms are a very important factor in the contract. So we're going to go through the terms that these clients offered. Tell you how we got those terms there, and then tell you how you can use the same strategy even if you're not a cash buyer, because these guys were cash buyers.
They were cash buyers, and I want to make a quick note that you know, some people are worried, well, I mean, if you just get rid of all the contingencies, it's not safe, it's not prudent, it's not logical. You're just kind of throwing caution to the wind and going for it, and of course that'll win a deal. These people, that wasn't the case. It was very thought out, it was planned, it was strategic, and so listen to how.
Yep. Okay. All right. So first thing, how did they get to be cash buyers? Well, they used private lending. So they had a family member that was able to set up a mortgage for them, and they're going to pay the family member back. So that's the first thing that you can always explore. Can you find somebody in your family who's willing to give you the money to buy the house, and then you pay them back?
Right.
Or you possibly refinance later, so you come in with the position of cash buyer.
Right.
Every term that we put in here you can get even if you have a lender. You just have to follow the instructions that we're going to go through.
Right, and we'll talk about gift letters. Like if you have any kind of lender involved, you're not going to be able to get a loan, borrow money from anyone, a family member or anybody. It's going to have to be a gift, right? You have to be given the money, not loan the money. When lending is involved.
Nice. Good you bring up that point. And these guys, there were no lenders involved, only the private lenders. There were no institutional lenders.
Yeah, and let's talk about why they had to go this route in the first place. Just briefly, they were trying to get a mortgage, but one of the spouses hadn't been at their job long enough to be able to count her salary, right? So you have to have, I think it's usually like 2 years on the job. You can ask your lender. And she didn't have that much time. They couldn't use it, you can imagine how much lower the price point would have to be if they're only using one person's salary. So luckily, good old mom and dad came to the rescue.
That's right. Okay, so the first thing was, it was a cash offer. That did not justify the lower cost. There were other terms that were important. How did we know what terms were important to the sellers? We talked to the seller's agent. We found out what is important to them, what are their goals, what's causing them to move. And we found out that the sellers were closing on this house, and as soon as they closed on this house, they had to go and buy another house. So they had to do what's called a post-settlement occupancy or a rent back. So this was our first thing that we were able to do, was we were able to go, because there was no lender involved, we were able to give an extended post-settlement occupancy. If you have a lender, you can only do 60 days. We offered them 75 days, which gave them an extra 2 weeks to go and find a house, buy a house, and be able to do that transaction.
And here's what we knew. We knew if it was going against other cash offers, because there were many offers, we knew that usually the cash offers are going to be lower, right? So they went higher because it wasn't technically going to be cash, but not having a lender involved meant that they could go higher on the PSO, the post-settlement occupancy. And let me just throw in something about the communication. We, the agents, reaching out to the seller's agent to get into the details of what's going on and what they need, what's really important. This is why your realtor and how they interact with other agents is so important.
That was the first thing. We had that extended post-settlement occupancy. And well, first thing was the cash.
Right.
The cash didn't matter to the seller though, because their net is what matters to them. The money's going to come. So the first term that mattered was a post-settlement occupancy. The next term that mattered also was because they were cash buyers. And this was a quick settlement. We gave them a 10-day settlement. Now, here's the catch on that. Even if you have a lender, if you follow the other instructions that we've given on the POFA, the pre-offer full approval, you can still use a 10-day settlement, which is extremely enticing to a seller, especially when they have to go buy a house, because they get their money then, and then they can go buy the house with that extended post-settlement
there are a
occupancy.
few things like the appraisal timing, but you know, some lenders that we work with, they have their appraisal people are phenomenal. I mean, they're still arm's length and all that, but they can get in there and get it done.
We just got a VA appraisal back in like 4 days, which was ridiculous. That was crazy. So that was the
because of the relations.
That's it. That's exactly. And then the next thing that you just brought up was the appraisal. So because it was a cash offer, there was no appraisal contingency. And there are things that you can do if you do have a lender. You know, we can still offer a buffer, or if you're liquid enough and willing to take the risk, you can always waive your appraisal contingency.
Buffer or gap is what it's technically called. Let me talk about appraisals real quick before you just go waiving them because you're cash.
Yes, don't do that.
This man here does extensive research on the comps. He pulls comps as soon as someone says, hey, I think I want to put an offer on it. What are the comps? He gets to work, spends tons of time researching everything around it so that he can say, you don't want to go beyond this point if you don't want to
go into negative equity.
Exactly.
Yeah. So and the offer they put in this property, they were well within the potential appraised value. So it was a good.
So make sure your agent would know how to do that.
Absolutely.
If that's
next thing after the appraised, they had no finance contingency. Again, they had no lender, so that's why they didn't have a finance contingency. But if you get your POFA, you too cannot have a finance contingency because your lender's already done all of the underwriting, so you are fully approved.
They've qualified you, right? All that's left for them, as we've talked about a million times, is qualifying the property. But this means you do have to do legwork ahead of time, which is actually better than doing it later. So go ahead and give them your documents and everything else. I mean, you're going to have to do it anyway.
Yep.
So do it and put yourself in a better negotiating position.
Yep.
Can I move on to no inspection contingency?
Yes.
No inspection contingency.
Okay, now.
You can either not get an inspection.
Yes.
Based on the age of it and all that. That might be reasonable.
Yeah, if it's newer and,
Right?
Yeah.
Or you can ask for a pre-offer inspection.
Yep.
So there's no inspection contingency. Did we do that on this one?
We did not. Only 3 years old, and then they had done a little bit of a pop out or something with it. So there wasn't much risk with the property with regards to the age of everything. A lot of things were still under warranty. So,
but we do a lot of pre-offer inspections for clients. It's great. The negative to you, the buyer, is okay. What if it comes back really, really bad? So you've spent a few $100s on it. A few, as in sometimes
5 or 6 or 7. Yeah.
Depending on the size.
Yeah.
But then if it passes or has some stuff that it's like, oh, I'm willing to change an outlet out myself, for $20, then great.
Yep.
Send your offer without an inspection contingency.
Yeah. So there's benefits and negatives to the pre-offer inspection, but a lot of buyers do use that. Some buyers opt not to. Some buyers just go ahead and waive inspections. It just really depends on the buyer.
Yeah.
And we did a complete video on inspection contingencies with all the different options with that.
Yeah.
But this offer was with every aspect of the offer, except for the price, could not be beat without a finance contingency, without an appraisal. There was no risk to the seller. The only difference was the price, and the seller took the terms, and they got it for $25,000 less than the other offer.
Yeah, we saw the other offer.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a
we had to see the other offer because of the escalation clause.
The only thing was they had the 60-day PSO, and we gave them a 75. And why did they really want the quick settlement? It's because they couldn't put an offer on a house
until they got their
with
money.
a sale of home contingency. In this market, is just not going to happen. So they had to get those funds, they had to settle quickly so the seller could get their money and have it to put down on the other one, and then have that waiting time to find the house and get the financing.
Yeah, so the differences were that extended PSO, and we were able to close 10 days sooner.
Yes.
So it was close, but those two small differences, 2 weeks on the back end, 2 weeks on the front end, saved the buyers $25,000.
Right.
So when the point of this is we're in a very, very strong seller's market. So when you're going out there as a buyer, you have to be able to put your best foot forward. You have to be willing to compete, but that doesn't always mean that you go out of the price that you can afford. You do need to be prepared to do what you can do price-wise, but then there's other things that you can try to do to win an offer. And so it takes communication and figuring out and knowing how to strategically write that offer.
It's the communication. I mean, that's so much of it, right?
Yep.
You know, because it could have been another property where the sellers weren't going to be what's the word I'm looking for? Not inspired, but motivated. Thank you. Yep. Motivated by the things that they could bring to the table so strongly. You know, sometimes they don't care. They don't need it. They're moving to Florida.
Yeah, they're already gone.
I get to make fun of Florida because I'm
You're from there. Yeah.
I'm from Florida.
She's from Florida, strawberry capital, plant city.
The winter strawberry capital of the world. Thank you very much. I grew up on a cow and orange grove farm. It was great.
Those cows were fantastic though when we were
Aren't
down
they?
there. Yeah,
they
were great.
still always line up for pictures with me, even though I'm scared of them.
All right. Okay. So I think that's pretty much
it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So the only thing, if you have a lender, the only thing on here that you would not be able to do and compete with would have been the extended PSO, post-settlement occupancy.
Yeah, but 60 days is a good long time, and oftentimes gets it, right?
And note that PSO was at no charge, so the sellers were able to stay rent-free during that time frame. Right. They had a security deposit, but
that's true.
so
and again, no one but us knows what a POFA is because we made it up.
Yeah, pre-offer full approval. Do not go to your lender and ask for that, or for a POFA, say pre-offer full approval. And they may not even know what that is, and a lot of lenders don't offer it. So if your lender does not offer it or does not know what it is, let us know. We'll be happy to communicate with them and see if that's something they can do.
Yes, and some of them, let me just make this quick note. Some of them will tell you that they're giving you a full approval, and it's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've got my lender's license. I will ask them certain questions to make sure, so that also if we're listing a house for you, I know how to check the offers, the lender's offers, and the pre-approvals that come in. I'll be able to tell you, oh yeah, this is actually a real pre-approval, or no, they haven't even done this, or this.
And that is really, really important if you're on the buyer side, because if you are putting your trust into that lender to have done a full approval, and then you waive your finance contingency, and then something comes up, you're kind of in a hard place. So, between a rock and a hard place. You're kind of stuck.
I hate it when I get in a hard place.
I know you do. So you want to make sure that you actually have a full approval. So let Kelly look at that for you. So, okay.
I won't try to write your loan or anything. I don't practice. I just I got the knowledge.
That's right. You dropping knowledge bombs.
It's like my favorite thing. I just want to tell everybody everything that I know, but I don't want to do it.
I don't want to do any work. You're an intellectual.
If anybody would ever believe that.
All right.